Welcome to AMPEDCast, where we bring together the worlds of electronic dance music and storytelling. Get to know industry leaders and talent on the rise as we sit down with them to share their artist journey from behind the decks. Our community is one for artists and music lovers alike, so settle in and enjoy the experience. Welcome to AMPEDCast Sessions, where we share the stories of artists from behind the decks to give you that one-on-one look to the artist and behind who they truly are and get to know them as a person and get to know their music. And today we have Woke Brian all the way from New York City joining us to sit down on our chairs today. Welcome, Brian. It's nice to see you.
Yes. So nice to see you too, and I'm so glad to be here. I love the experience when I came back in November for Seismic. And yeah, I'm just so excited to share the room with everyone tonight.
Yeah. Yes, when I met you, it was just, I remember you were just so kind. You were just the kindest person to talk to. It was just when we were starting out sessions. I didn't know what I was doing. It was just a trial thing, and now here we are. And it's been so good to just get to know you over the last few months, hear about your journey, and then now share your journey with our audience today.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Well, let's start off. I know you are an artist and you have been working in music full time now, which is really incredible. And that's what I'm really excited to dive into. But I would love to share a little bit about how you got started. Just share a little bit about yourself as a person and how you got into music.
Totally. Well, the journey itself has spanned, I would say, close to 10 years in music. Working in music, I'm pretty much still a baby in it. I've only worked 3 years full time in the dance music scene. But growing up, I loved playing instruments. I've always been around like a musical family. I just didn't know that I was going to be working in music until the moment hit me and all the opportunities lined up perfectly. Like, I feel like it was written in the stars. So I would say timeline-wise, it was around COVID that I started DJing more intensively and seriously. And then coming out of COVID, obviously I wanted to do something new. I was a fiend for getting music festivals, meeting the right people. But yeah, before anything else, I'm a raver. And yeah, I just love the music. I follow the music. I travel extensively for music. And I think it was just at one point where I was relentless and I wanted to work with my favorite artist. So I went to every single one of their shows in New York, Miami, and then I'd go to Europe. And yeah, I was just really trying to get myself around the right people. I didn't know really who to talk to, or, I didn't have any backstage connections. At one point after COVID, I remember a specific moment where there's a city in New York called this music festival in New York called Electric Zoo. And I saved up some coin, and I spent, I think it was like $400 on like the premium backstage ticket, highest access, whatever that means. And I kind of just finessed, and that's where I met the team that I work with every day now at 1001 Tracklist. The world's largest electronic music database. So I'm balancing a few projects out right now. But first and foremost, that was my, I guess, formal introduction into music. Definitely caught a touch of luck along the way, but it was a lot of calculated risk and sacrifice. Yeah, that's the beginning of the music journey. Obviously, I cannot cover all 10 years in these 45 minutes, but that's a little intro.
Well, that's incredible. And you know what? You really touched on something which I think many of us have, is that passion for music, and how you went for it, and you made the opportunity, you allowed the opportunity to come into existence, and you believed in it. And that was, I think, what was incredible about your journey, especially meeting 1001 Tracklist, but also when we talked a few weeks ago, you told me a story that really touched my heart, how you got to work with one of your favorite artists and tour. And that is a story I want to dive into, because it was like a chance encounter, right? You were at a show, or you tell the story better than I do. So
Okay. I think it was right after COVID, around the same time I went to that music festival that an artist named Mathame, they're an Italian duo from Milan. They were playing at this underground warehouse in Brooklyn, and I was listening to their music on Spotify a little bit, but they were in town that night and nobody else wanted to go. So I just full sent it, and I had the time of my life. It's like one of my fondest memories was just like the first time hearing them. And after that came Tulum. Never been to Mexico in my life, but I bought a plane ticket to go see them play around New Year's time. And from there, like I said, I went to every single one of their shows. I was that guy in the front row, dancing my ass off. And yeah, it was kind of just a pest. Like I posted and tagged them in everything. And I think it was one point over Easter weekend, a couple months after Mexico, I was visiting family in London, but actually I was just going to see their show. And I'll never forget it. I was in the crowd again, and one of them just like flicked their head back like that. And that was my first backstage experience. Yeah, it's kind of surreal talking about it right now, because obviously all of the pieces had to align for me to be there. One of their girlfriends I met in Mexico was also at the London show, and I went up to her and introduced myself, and I had a video of her also dancing, and I was like, you must be with the team. And she's like, yeah, you must really like the music because you're at all of their shows.
Dedication.
Yeah, so after that, I went back to New York. I was still working my day job at the time, which is a 9-to-5 graphic design job at MLB. So I had to go back and forth, all these trips. And yeah, that cost a lot of money, and I was tempted every time, but yeah, I got back to New York after London, and she DM'd me saying it's going to be my birthday in 2 weeks, and the guys are closing out Circle Festival in Paris. And yeah, I'm like, I'm there. So I met the whole team there, and yeah, it was just super inspiring, and they were so welcoming. I mean, they're Europeans, and I didn't really have many European connections at the time. So yeah, it felt like family right away. And after that, in the back of my mind, I knew they're going on summer tour, so I didn't want to bother them too much. I just wanted to go back in New York and work on myself. Yeah, so I chilled it that summer and also picked up doing events in New York. Yeah, if you guys are catching on, I was doing a lot at the same time. I was also working at 1001, handling all their social accounts. So yeah, that's like when TikTok started going off. And they were like, you know how to do TikTok? And I never picked up the app before in my life. And I said, yeah, I know how to do TikTok. Taught myself everything about the app in like 2 weeks. And yeah, I think like the year went by. They came back to New York in September. They had like one of their biggest shows of the year at Brooklyn Raj, and like I tapped in with them a couple weeks before, and I was like, guys, I want to go, and they're like, yeah, let's grab dinner before that, and let's just hang, you know. Yeah, it was family. So after that, things started picking up. They played in London again and invited me out. But yeah, it was just an invite. So I'm like, well, I got to pay for this flight. But I did it. And then after that was ADE in Amsterdam. And, I knew the connections were there, but also I wasn't really full time in music yet. So I just threw myself out there, and we had dinner again. And I went back to New York, and then they hit me up again, and we're playing Printworks closing in London, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. They said we're also flying private that night, and I'm like, okay, this is getting good. So yeah, I think the first work opportunity with them came about at Art Basel. When I got back from London, they said, our tour manager is sick. Can you do this show with the guys? I was getting pretty close to the manager. And of course, I said, I'll put myself out there. I never tour managed in my life. But yeah, I was just learning on the fly, handle their itineraries, their travel schedules, the dinners, everything. So yeah, they had really good trust in me. And by the time, 1 month after that was Tulum again. And they invited me to stay at their villa this time. They paid for my trip. So I was like, wow, okay, these guys are really genuine. But yeah, I was still feeling things out. I wasn't fully committed on quitting my day job yet. But I knew in the back of my mind it would happen soon because I couldn't keep doing 4 things at once. And I think that spring came around, and that's when they offered me a contract. And of course I said yes, because I'm going to regret it if I ever look back at this and I don't do that. So I gave my design job like less than a week's notice that I was going to quit. And yeah, I went on tour for the rest of the summer. I was on tour with them, staying at their studio in Milan. And yeah, that's where I taught myself everything I needed to know about music. I was just obsessed with it. I ate, breathed, slept music for that summer. And we worked on an album together, which was the biggest project I've ever been a part of. The fact that they said, can you handle the press releases with Forbes? Can you manage our shows at Coachella? I was just saying yes to everything, and I'm so glad I did, because at the end of the summer, I learned that touring wasn't for me. It's a very rigorous schedule, very intense itinerary, but I said, the only way I'm going to learn that is to do it. So they understood. They knew I wanted to do my own thing. So they said, we're friends. You can always hit us up. We can always work on another album together. And I chose to do a bigger opportunity with the 1001 Tracklist. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm managing all the DJ promo campaigns for 1001. I'm distributing all the new music that's being played at the music festivals and clubs around the world. And I'm having a great time doing it. That's part of the reason I'm here, is to meet all of you and connect with you guys, because you never know who's in the room when you're playing a show, when you're doing a podcast. There's so many cool people in here. So that's the journey so far. Of course, you gotta love doing music, because it's very overwhelming and it's a tough industry. But I would like to say I'm cut out for it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about your journey so far. There's a lot I want to unpack, especially when it comes to stepping stones, taking stepping stones and jumping to sometimes, like you said, calculated risk. Can you dive into what that looked like for you? Because the word calculated risk, we often hear, oh, go for it, take a huge risk, or don't take a risk. But how would you say you made calculated risks within making the steps that you did?
Well, I think it's about finding balance in anything you do, because obviously if you do something well, people are going to pick up on it. If you're a genuine person, people will pick up on it. Don't be an asshole. That's the number one rule.
True.
Strip down your ego and just, just be you, as cliche as that sounds. In terms of calculating risk, I mean, if you ever want to do something seriously, like, you'll know when the time comes that you got to give it your all. And I mean that isn't like, especially in the job market now, it's like, it's so competitive and you need to make yourself stick out. I made myself stick out because I could do more than one thing for them and I became irreplaceable. So I think, like, in terms of risk, it's like you have to consider all the circumstances, because at the end of the day, you need to find your purpose. You need to find your purpose in not just music, but any work you do. Luckily for me, it only took me 1 year to find my purpose working in music. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than that. Working behind the scenes in music, you see a lot of lost people with no purpose, people with no intentions. So I think, like, my number one rule is wake up every day and be intentional. Have a mantra and sort of just, like, go step by step, go day by day. That's what I mean by calculated risk. Is like, there's obviously a strategy to it. There's a strategy to this madness. But yeah, you got to know you're cut out for it.
That is true. And one thing that is really cool that you're doing now is you're in music full time, whether you're working in, like, more the business side of things or working on your own music. What would you say to other artists, other, maybe DJs, producers that are looking to go more full time into their music?
Definitely. Like I said, it's about balance and being patient with it all. You're asking if, like, DJs want to go full time with it?
Either going full time in their DJing or going full time into music to some capacity. It may not be as a DJ.
Totally. Well, I think it is a people's business. First and foremost, you need to be a people's person. There's much more than just DJing. Being a DJ producer, even if you make the most amazing music, you could not know how to talk, like, have a conversation with somebody in a room. And so I would say, like, definitely sharpen those communication skills, those marketing skills, because those have been really valuable to me. Yeah, it consumes a lot of time. If you're a producer, you gotta be invested in yourself. Even as a DJ, you gotta listen to a lot of new music. You gotta stick out from the rest of the DJs, because there are a million DJs. And something I found out, started working on my solo project, because I used to be playing with a partner, so as a duo project. Yeah, it eats away at your day, and I'm not saying don't do a duo, but I pursued the solo project because I wanted to grow more myself. And yeah, I think it's going great, because I just played shows in Denver and Chicago last week by myself, which were awesome. I get to travel now and DJ. That's something that I made a goal for myself last year, and it kind of carried into this year. But yeah, you definitely need to look at it as like a stepping stone. Like, if you're DJing on the local circuit, definitely just show up, just be yourself and introduce yourself to people, because, like I said, you never know where those connections will go. The connections are always in front of you, as I like to say. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just put yourself out there. It'll work out.
Yes, so that's a really good point. Thinking about putting yourself out there, there's so many layers to being an artist. When you're in your room producing, or you're in your room DJing, to going and being out in the scene, shaking hands, having your your elevator pitch of like knowing your music and being able to talk about your music without feeling cringy or, and I really like to say, look at it like it's a gift you're giving the world. Your music is a gift. It's a gift that you're giving. And when we hold back from that, that's withholding that gift. And when we share it, it's, again, giving it to the world. And so I like to frame it that way, especially when artists are a little nervous to share about their music or put themselves out there, is just remember what you have is a gift. And that's a good mantra to kind of look at to get over the fear factor or to just know how to talk about your music.
Totally. I'm a visual learner, and I love storytelling. I was always terrible at drawing, so I always looked at DJing as like a way of storytelling through beats. That's why I love the record mixes these days. As DJs, you have to be well-rounded. You cannot just show up at a show and play. You have to do you have to be well-rounded. You need to be proactive, and you definitely gotta put 200% into it. Storytelling is my biggest passion. After music, I want to do documentaries. I want to do short films. I want to do video games. So yeah, be ambitious.
I like it. We'll have to do a collabo sometime. We'll have to circle back and maybe do a documentary.
I would love to.
Okay. Well, it's on record now. I love that. Well, you're talking about dreams and goals and moving forward. Where do you want to take your music, and in both your personal music career as well as in your work life, in 2025?
I want to play in more new cities. I want to produce more music, which I just started teaching myself at the end of last year. I think those two are a great start, right? You don't want to put too much on your plate, but the main focus is music production. The main focus is also doing events in New York. Over the years, ever since us coming out of COVID, I always wanted to bring my own curation, event curation to, whether it be a rooftop, a venue. Me and my friends have grown out those rooftop parties into something bigger over time. We feel like we have a really cool concept going where we book female headliners. We book local artists, we book people of color artists, and we do charity-based events. So every ticketed show, a non-negotiable for me would be part of the proceeds go to a nonprofit or a charity of our choice, and also we want to make that work for the promoter as well. So I think it's a great initiative. So yeah, those three things. Travel, produce, and do more events, and work on my creative portfolio.
Those are great goals. I absolutely love this. This has been such a fun conversation so far. I think this is a great time to open it up to the audience and have the audience ask a few questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, Raymond.
What's your favorite song by Atomic?
Okay, what's your favorite song by Atomic?
My favorite song of theirs has to be off the album that I work with them. If you guys look up their album, it's called Memo, M-E-M-O, and it's the opening track. So the album I worked on is a listening album. It's just something else. Obviously, I wanted to work with them. I wanted to just be a part of their team because they make crazy music that made me feel, it was a really emotional journey making that album. So yeah, I'm just grateful that my name's on that vinyl, and anytime I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, I had a piece of it. So yeah, listen to the opening track.
I love that. I got to get that album. Another question.
Yes, in the back.
So have you ever had any doubts or like feelings of regrets, doubts?
Absolutely. I don't think I went into it enough, but when I quit my day job and went on tour the week after, it was like undescribable what I was feeling. I knew I'd be away from home for the next 3 months, and I just never experienced that. So when I got on that plane, definitely felt very uncomfortable, but I knew it was the right decision. It was just when I was flying back like later that month for Miami Music Week, I was leaving for Milan, and my flight got delayed, and I sat down at a cafe, and my laptop got stolen. Yeah, I didn't know Milan was dangerous like that, but I found out the hard way, and yeah, I think that was the first moment of slight regret. I mean, yeah, I was kicking myself for like 5 seconds over that, but I was like, better I found out now. My passport was still on my chest, so we were good, you know. These are just commercial things, but yeah, it set me back a couple racks. But no, it's just every time I felt regret, it's more about, you know, moving forward, pushing yourself through those moments. That's what's important. That's what's going to build character and teach you something new about yourself.
Very well said. Yes, turning doubts into like you have the doubts, but you do the thing anyway, and you conquer. Oh, I love that. Another question. Yes.
What was the most challenging part about marketing yourself in the beginning of your career?
Ooh, what was the most challenging part about marketing yourself in the beginning of your career?
You know, as an artist, it's always good to ask questions and you know, always be open-minded. And I would say the most challenging thing was, this doesn't really have to do with like the marketing part, but when I started working with these artists, one thing I had to do was teach myself Italian. And yeah, I mean, it's not the hardest language to learn, but you know, it's a language. So no, I you know, when I started telling people that I knew 3 languages, I traveled the world, you know, I feel like they found that a lot more interesting than just like, where did you play, you know. I think the most challenging thing is, after I stopped the duo project, was making a brand for myself. Woke Brian, the name Woke Brian was born over COVID. Like, me and cousin were just doodling, and I think like I saw an eye or something, and I was like, that's what it's gonna be. I don't care how ridiculous it sounds, but that's what I'm gonna ride with. Yeah, it may change, it may not, but for now, I think like what that name has become is like, everything is a stepping stone for me. I've played at the most random places in New York, but over time, you know, the most challenging thing is knowing when to say no. It's turning down some gigs because like you got to know that you're bigger than, you know, certain. And I'm not saying like don't play on the local scene. I'm just saying like know your self-worth. And after I started, you know, I came back from working with Mathame, like people started knowing me in the industry because I was touring with them. But I think like from there, the hardest part was like bridging all your music industry connections and, you know, transitioning to using those to your advantage when it's building out like your own project, your own work. I would say like one of the most challenging moments for me was when I came back from tour with them at the end of the summer, and I was touring very extensively that summer, and just transitioning back into everyday life, like it felt so weird. But I think DJing really, and also just like making music with friends really picked me up at the time, because yeah, those are two completely different head switches that you got to bounce back and forth between. So I think that was one of the, I don't know if you guys watch like Severance, but it really felt like I was reintegrating into everyday life, and that was probably like when I felt the hardest days. But yeah, just getting back to what you're saying was, find yourself as an artist is you have to distinguish yourself from the competition. You have to dig deep, and in any city, you have to have a connection with like the people that you play in front of. And I say, like, if you're DJing and you don't have a connection with the people in the room, then you're not doing it the right way. And I think for me, you know, finding out more about myself and connecting with people in different rooms, especially when I started playing for my goal venues, like the bucket list venues. Like I just played Superior Ingredients in New York back in a couple months ago in December, and that was one of the most amazing rooms I've ever played, because even if it was an opening slot, I really felt like I got to a level where I had a bond with everybody in the room that day. There was probably maybe like 40, 50 people. But half of them I knew, but regardless, like, yeah, you definitely find out a lot about yourself through those moments.
Wow, that's incredible. Great question. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I have one final question for you. What is most inspiring to you?
What's most inspiring to me is I meet so many people along the way that I can say that I have probably 10, 15 really close friends in this room that have my back. It's a crazy life that we live as musicians, and you'll have your creative mentors, you'll have your daily mentors. You just have to surround yourself with the right people, because if you do that, you can do anything. I remember one of my biggest heroes is Skrillex, and when he was doing a pop-up in New York City with Fred again, I was walking home from work that day and I ran into him, and I was like, no, this ain't real, because because those things don't just happen. And my 5-second elevator pitch, and I'm a mega fan, so in my backpack I had his catalog, and it was crazy because he signed it, he took a quick photo, but I could tell, like, you got to read the room, like he's gonna get mobbed if he stays on the street for more than 5 seconds. So the day after that, I quit my day job, because I knew that, like, the universe makes things happen for a reason, and that obviously happened for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I know I'm gonna come back to Austin really soon.
Hey.
We're gonna do more special things, but I think what's just closing on that. The most inspiring thing for me is I can share these people with I can share these moments with like those closest to me. That's the most beautiful thing, because it's very repetitive what I do on a day-to-day. As good as I do it, like it gets boring sometimes. So sometimes you got to switch it up. And this is amazing. This is amazing, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you. Well, how can people find you online? You got to get his information. How can people connect with your music?
Totally. So it's Woke Brian on Instagram, Woke Brian _. I'm on SoundCloud. Just have a conversation with me after this, and I'd love to connect with you guys. Yeah, stay tuned. There's new music dropping soon. I'm working on a couple demos, And yeah, I'm going to keep pushing out new mixes, hopefully get a festival this year, and we'll see from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Are you on Hinge? Are you on Hinge?
Yes.
Ask it. Not for me. Well, give us a follow on, again, YouTube. Check us out, youtube.com/@AMPEDCAST. We're going to be sharing this episode, so you'll be able to replay it here in a couple of weeks. Give us a follow if you like this kind of content. If you love what we're building here, we'd love to invite you to be part of that community always. And now we're going to enjoy a great set by Woke Brian. Yeah.